Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Speak. I'm Talia Pardo. I'm an editor, a writing coach, a life coach, and host of this show that I've been so much enjoying having these wonderful guests on. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Janelle Hoyland Garza. She is a multi-million dollar soul legacy empire builder. I love that. That's just so, I feel the energy around it. And a life transformation specialist and a lover of life. She has done numerous radio shows and speaking engagements, started her first company at 21, which is pretty incredible. And since then has had 5 thriving businesses. So, Janelle, you've done a little bit of everything, it feels like, and a lot of everything. We were saying before, and in our previous conversation, you say, I've been doing this for 30 years. And what I wanted to say to you was, 30 years is a long time to be doing what you're doing in this world when all of this, the reconnection with spirituality and ourselves and our energies in the different realms that there are coaches to work. And a lot of your work focuses on life mastery, but also in wealth and business mastery, to have started so long ago. And there's no way that you look like you could have been doing this for 30 years either. You're absolutely beautiful. but that you've been doing this, so you're like one of these pioneers, I feel, who really had the courage to step into this space and serve, right? Because that's kind of what we're doing. That's how I feel about coaching, right? And we're using our gifts that we have gone through our own journeys to connect with and bringing them to others to help guide them along. So tell us a little bit in the audience about you, but also how did your start the 30 years ago, where did you feel you were that you could bring this out to people?
Like I said, because we talked about the 30-year mark, right? Because then, yeah, it wasn't widely the woke moment, and we weren't stepping into our spirituality like that. And also to start, at 19 when most people are just barely kind of figuring out, oh, I have to do the adulting thing.
Right. What is adulting? I don't even know what
Yeah,
to do with my life. Yeah.
exactly. And so I was with all of these gifts that were kind of running wild in my life.
Mm,
And I was like, I knew that I had to focus them on something, right?
mm,
Because up until that point, they were just kind of a plethora of experiences that were huge, but didn't have a focus, right? And I knew they weren't just for me because it wouldn't just be, things about my own life. It would be everyone and
mm.
all the things, right? And I really honestly and didn't have a teacher, didn't have guidance at that time from an external source. Everything that I had was internal.
Wow.
So labeling things like, clairaudience or uh, past life regression or anything like that. I didn't have terminologies for things. They were
Right.
just things.
Mm. There were things you experienced, but didn't
Yeah.
really. Did you even see that as something that only you were experiencing, or that
Yeah.
you thought that everybody kind of experienced, and this is just part of the human experience, the human abilities and
Yeah. So definitely when I was younger, because I started seeing when I was really early, and like 3, so
wow,
to
you
me,
remember.
that was just my experience. I didn't know or have the awareness until I got into my teens that this was not what everybody's world experience was like,
Mm,
so at that point, that's when I began to ask for direction, like, please
right,
help me with what am I supposed to be doing with this? Where's this going?
right.
And that's where the prayer came in for me, and asking for
Wow.
direction and asking to understand and asking to be led, which is not what most teenage kids are asking for at
Right.
all.
No, teens think that they know it all anyways. Nobody wants to hear any direction. I mean, I've got 2 teens at home too. I know very
Yeah. And
well.
so, and also doing it in what I call in the South at that time, right,
Okay. Mm,
is a big deal because at that time there was a lot of, oppression towards women. There was also, a lot of race issues and things like that. And so I just didn't have any of those filters. So I just didn't operate in the world that way. And I kind of really honestly treated it as everyone had that connection until that point. Then when I started praying and I was told you need to go work with people, I was like, great, I have no idea what that looks like.
Mm.
What is that even? What go work with people? How? Like,
Yeah.
just a sign on the
What am I
door and
supposed to
say,
do?
arrow.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Find me here.
right, exactly. And so, and then that's when I started working in trade. Like, literally, I would work with people all over the world because I wanted to have the experience of learning. But I had to learn how the universe connected through our lives and all of that through people's life experience. And so the first probably 3 years of working with people, I just worked in trade and
Okay.
learned about the in and outs of life. And at the same time, I had a resale business at the same time.
Right.
So
Yeah, you had like one foot in the 3D, very practical earthly
yeah,
world. And at the same time, you were also developing your spiritual business and life, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's incredible to dance. And did you ever find that there was a clash or a conflict between living, between the two?
yeah, there definitely was. Because I mean, when you go into a business meeting, and let's say I was acquiring businesses at that time. So I was
Okay.
actively buying
Wow.
out businesses.
Right.
And so if
That's
you go into
incredible.
a banker's meeting and you say, well, I feel like my intuition is telling me,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're like, where's your projection and what are your,
yeah,
fourth quarter, all the, but even just that you were, both things are so incredible to me because to even start on that track so young,
yeah,
and so decisively and powerfully, right? Because that sounds like you went very, very far very quickly, right?
yeah,
It's not just that you opened a little boutique store and had
no,
your products and were selling your stuff. You're expanding and working in the corporate world.
right, rapid fire. By the time I was 38, we had 11 locations and 150 employees.
Wow,
So
that's huge.
yeah,
That's
that
huge.
that's heavy foot in one logical world, right? And it turns out I'm actually phenomenal at business,
Right,
which those two don't go together either.
right.
And so in the spiritual world, I was very much judged for the
Mm,
ability to manifest money and
right,
to diversify my income, right?
right.
Um, and that represented to me, I was like, well, why should I be judged? Because that's a part of my natural spiritual talent.
Right. That's the direction your gifts are directing you, right?
Yeah,
That's the nature of those gifts. There are people who have gifts that, really in the relationship world, that's where their gifts are to lead and to guide people. And there's so many areas of our lives that,
yeah,
it makes sense that business minded is also a part of that.
yeah. It can be a
Yeah,
spiritual talent.
sure.
It can be. But and so when I would find myself kind of holding back when I would teach and lead workshops and not really share why I was able to offer those, classes at a certain rate or,
Mm,
based on, my experience or whatever. And so, it kind of was this dichotomy of worlds, right?
yeah.
Of these two experiences. And that's kind of how my life has always been, And so at a certain point, I had to merge the two, and I had to really just say, okay, this is who I am, like it or not. It doesn't bother me. So, all right, fine.
Right. It's an acceptance of yourself and who you are and not
Yeah,
letting that, perceived judgment impact how you're going to present yourself or what you're going to give of yourself. And it speaks to also, these days, like we've said, the spiritual world is so much more open to the business world. But what I've learned just myself is that because the business world really it it touches on your limiting beliefs that you have around yourself. So not just around what you can accomplish and who you are and the kind of work that you can do, but also your relationship with what your worth is. Because if you don't believe you're worthy of creating a successful business and drawing clients to in whatever area, retail, coaching, doesn't matter even. But if you don't believe you're even worthy of it or that you can achieve it, that's going to be your spiritual or energetic block right there in your business. That's been my own little insights that I've learned.
I think too, like in that, and I was also raising kids. It wasn't,
Right.
so I'm like
Superwoman.
yeah, it wasn't like a hesitation. I never had a hesitation. I knew that with business or with spirituality, you have to seize your moments. And when they come in is usually not when you're prepared.
Right. That's
Yeah, I
right.
mean, let's face it, it's not when you're prepared, and it's not
No.
when you've meditated all this time. It's never about that.
No.
It's always when you're looking at something else,
Yeah.
thinking about something else, and you've already let that go, not
Mm.
consciously, right? But subconsciously, it's not even a focus. And then the universe delivers. And then you go, well, wait, what? And then you hesitate, and then you
Mm.
overthink, you overanalyze. And that's what I see a lot of people do on both sides, both in traditional business and in spirituality. When they're trying to grow their business there's a lot of overthinking and hesitation. And the universe works in quick moments, quick
Yeah.
moments, quick moments. And
That's
it's
great.
not about just jumping for the sake of just jumping, because there's also that component where people just jump and jump and jump and jump. And it's not about that. But it's
Mm.
about when those moments come in and you feel it and you know it, but your mind kicks in and go, yeah, no, I don't really think that's for me.
What if?
It,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, what if this happens or what if that happens? Literally, we started our first retail location, and within a year we were already approached by two other businesses.
Wow.
Within a year, you don't even pay in yourself at that point.
No,
Like,
that's right.
let's be honest.
Yeah. Right.
And
Because it's
it
a
was like,
minimum of 2 years before most businesses really become lucrative
but
enough to pay anybody.
yeah, but here's the thing, that business, they wanted $50,000 for the
Wow.
whole nutshell. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That was
Okay.
a no brainer. It was
Yeah.
like, you couldn't even, if you didn't take that, it would be nuts, you know?
Right.
And so it was like, how do we make that work? And so we figured out a way to leverage that first business to fund the second location. And that's the thing, like people get stuck in that loop of like, well, how do but they don't think about like all the options, right?
Mm.
The
Right.
universe brings you things based on your capacity, not
Mm.
your limited thinking.
Right. And those are two very different things, right?
Yeah,
Your capacity is your potential and what you're really capable of. Your
yeah,
limited is like self-imposed. It's the self-imposed. We do it to ourselves constantly, it's the self-imposed things that we think we can do, and really we're always so much more capable than we realize,
yeah.
our conscious mind is telling us even,
Oh
right?
yeah, totally. I mean, that's what, like when we were first talking about, like when the universe brought me, doing comedy, stand-up comedy, I
Mm.
was not even looking for that, right? But I knew that I needed to take that moment and run with it, right?
Yeah.
So there's just, we are so multifaceted, and to limit ourselves, you know, based on one thing, I'm just a coach, or I'm just a business owner, or I'm just
Mhm.
this, is really cutting ourselves short, and we,
Well,
we
yeah.
need to embody that richness of our soul.
Right, because as a person, we're not just, in our personalities, we don't just like skiing and we don't just like cooking. We love so many things and we can be passionate and talented at so many different things. So why does that not translate into the business world. And I think, we look at history, we can kind of track that in how the 40-hour work week, evolved and developed. And then it became, this is the stability that you have. You would work in the same place or the same factory for 30 years and, never leave. And that's what you did. And the concept of multiple streams of income, or even the ability to do more than one thing, it's really so new. It's such a new
It is.
concept that people have a hard time. I did too, have a hard time even being like, wait, I can do both, really?
Yeah.
Can I? Yeah, you can absolutely do both, and you might even feel more fulfilled, right,
Yeah,
by
totally.
adding to your life. That's what it
And
comes down to.
well, the the spiritual truth about that is that we have actually allowed ourselves to speed up in
Mm,
time so that we can accomplish more in a short amount of time.
yeah, I
But
feel that.
logically, your mind is
Yeah.
still in the dogma of with harder work becomes more progress.
Mm,
And so we were actually moving at a faster frequency,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And so your brain is still in that kind of like you see the kids, right? The kids are
Mm.
moving way faster than we are,
Oh, absolutely.
you know.
Can't keep up.
I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, and this is also I strategically surround myself with younger kids, because
That
that
energy.
energy will only help you expand more, and and vice versa. Like they're getting something from me too, from the
Mm,
years of experience, right?
right.
And because we've quickened the pace at which we can create and achieve, we also have to think about, okay, well, that's also relevant to wealth and opportunities and all that kind
Sure.
of stuff, because we're not we're no longer, like you said, in that 40-hour work week. We can actually do three
Right.
jobs in a 2-day work week, or a 3-day
Right.
week,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. And still have life to enjoy, right? What were we doing it all for anyways, right? Right? Are we entitled to enjoy this life on the planet while we're
Mm-hmm.
here, instead of that grind of go to work, come home, only to get up again to go back to work, that to pay for the house and the clothes that you can't afford, to go back to work, to earn the money, that whole routine. That's that cliche, that it's not so cliche, because I feel like that's I'm looking for the word for it. That's the structure that a lot of people are trapped in these days, and are slowly awakening to the understanding that they don't have to be, but it calls for a massive reevaluation of your entire life.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And I think too, one of the things that I've been playing with for the past probably since 2018 is the concept around not serving money
Mm,
and not serving your business,
mm.
because really both are meant to serve you, because
Right.
you're the leader of the energy. And for a lot of, coaches and business owners, right, you get into that loop of, because I was there, that's creating that amount of wealth, you have to have an extensive amount of drive,
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know, at a young age. And so I was like,
Oh,
well, it's
incredible.
great, I've done it, but there's something missing, right?
Mm,
And it was because I was serving the business, I was serving
mm.
money, and not in
Right.
an egotistical way at
No.
all, but I wasn't in flow with it. I wasn't in connection to it. I didn't feel it.
It
And
was
that's where we're at right
obligation. Yeah, it was obligations you have to fulfill, because you created this
now.
business and then needs you, the driver, to keep it. But it feels like you were there from behind, whereas
Yeah.
instead you need to move to the front and have the
Yes.
business follow in your wake.
Yes, exactly. And that's where we since 2018, and we made that big shift at
Mm,
energy,
yeah.
prior to, the stuff and all that. And we needed to understand, okay, where are you giving your energy to, and what are
Mm,
you serving that's
right.
not aligned with you,
Hmm.
and it's running your life. And it could be, yeah, your spirituality could be running your life. instead of you
Mm.
feeding your spiritual connection
Yeah.
from your heart. And
Right.
so those are all the distinctions that I've been playing with since, 2018, going, okay, well, that was a big shift for everyone prior,
Yes. Oh yeah.
to, and I call it another awakening moment, like, you know, um, but I think from, not just women, but men also, they're meant to be coming into this space of alignment with leading their lives, leading your
Yeah.
life based on who you are, not obligation to anything other than your fullest expression.
Yeah. And that's hard for the masculine too, right? Because they have their own um like historically dictated roles that they're meant to fulfill, that sometimes don't take into account the person that they are, right? That
Mm-hmm.
that are they strive to meet and be understood for, right? So I mean that's a huge that's a huge, I love to talk about the feminine and the masculine because it also comes into business, right? Because women
It does.
tend to step into the masculine in business,
Yep.
but the masculine is a whole other area that, to me, at least in my sphere, doesn't get touched enough, I feel, or that I know there are men out there stepping into leadership and making a space for true divine, like pure masculine to express itself. But it needs to be, I think, amplified to be better
Yeah.
understood.
And it's funny because I had my first two kids are girls, and that was a whole other journey because they were with me behind the counter, right, every
Mm,
day. And then my son was born in 2011, and he's divergent. So he's
mm,
like all over the map, true like lost boy, wild child, like
mm,
he needs to have his feet dirty and muddy every day. And, he's got this beautiful lion hair that's blonde and curly and these bright blue eyes. And he truly is like like a wild energy,
mm.
and so having he could never do behind the counter. He could never
No,
do
for sure
that.
not. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
That's
So
standing still. Like that's
yeah,
whole trying to
exactly.
contain him. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so it was very interesting how that,
Mm,
because as I was phasing out of my role in the original company, right, that I had created, and diversifying that income and then moving more into doing my spiritual practice, he took on that role with me instead of the
mm,
other role that my girls had. So they learned and watched me do a very masculine role.
right. Right.
And he's
Yeah.
watching me do a very feminine role.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It's very interesting. And he's like, the wild one where they're still very contained.
Okay.
But it's just their expression, right? They
Right.
needed to know how to provide for
Mm,
themselves in a very masculine representation in a female body. And
right.
trust me, when you walk into a business meeting with nothing but bankers at the table wanting to assess every part of your business, you have to adapt a more
Right.
masculine, dominant leadership role.
Absolutely. Right.
You
You're
do.
playing their game. You have to
Yeah.
be, yeah, you have to be a contender in there. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
true, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yes, that's who you're dealing with for
Right.
sure.
Exactly.
You can't come in, flow in feminine and just this is be and just be, this is
Let
my
me just
creative energy. I'm just
let
gonna
me
be
just be
here.
with you.
Yeah, I
And
know that's not gonna
can I
work.
smudge the space before we start?
Yeah, yeah, I know.
It doesn't work like that. You got to
Yeah.
be in and rolling right when you walk in that door, because even before that conversation, you're judged. And so, in them watching me do that and command that space and create and
Mm,
create and create and create and provide a substantial income for them, right, and our life, and then move into this role with my son, where I believe, like men need to move into that space of understanding the embodied feminine.
yeah.
And so he's watching and learning in that space. And I also have to teach him in a divergent way, which is
Mm,
new. And
hmm.
that's why I said the new kids coming in are like
Yeah.
so different than the other ones.
Different. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but he's commanding of his space. Like he knew from very early on, I want this, I'm asking for that, and that's what I get. And so
Very focused.
learning, yeah, learning how to create that way for me was an education, and
Right.
learning from him, so I have to teach him boundaries and structure around that. Like, you can't
Right.
always just ask for candy and expect people to give it to you. You know,
Yeah. There's an
he's like,
appropriate moment. Yeah. There's
he's like, I want candy. He'd just say it out loud, and someone would get up and hand him candy.
Is he a Leo? Is he embodying? He's got that lion energy there that
Oh
just
my God. It
served
was it
me.
was great to watch for the sense of, we think about manifestation being instantaneous. Oh, it's instantaneous. You have that energy right. You can
Sure.
manifest it on a dime, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to teach him structure around that. Like,
Mm.
he's like, oh, I want that hat. He'd just say it out loud and someone would give him a hat. It was not anywhere connected to us. I'm like, where?
How?
How do you do that? I want to learn how to do that.
Yes. It's like I had to wait for the universe to bring me what I was asking for, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
he's just like, well, I just ask and I know. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
we're gonna have to work on boundaries
Right. Yeah.
and structure.
Right.
And yeah,
But
but
that's an incredible energy to work with,
it
right? To
is.
learn
It's
to harness. Yeah.
amazing, amazing to watch that. Um, and so his world is I just get whatever I want. So I just ask and I get it.
And I get, yeah. And it's beautiful. I mean, that's very masculine as well, right? It's that very
Yeah,
determined, focused, goal-oriented, single-minded.
yeah,
But it's beautiful because you've been able to give, we all have both inside of us, right? To
yeah.
channel and to touch on. So you've given each of your children the balance, the
Mhm.
opposite, right? Just to learn to manipulate and to work with or to embody when the time is right with the right guidance.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the wonderful thing too is all of my kids are genetically wired in different ways
Mm.
spiritually the same as I am. And
Oh,
so they have different spin-off traits. They don't have the full package, right? But they have
okay.
different spin-off traits. I call them spin-off traits of mine, where it doesn't look the same, but it's a similar connection, right?
Mm,
So
sure.
obviously you can see that in my son, right?
Mm,
Based on the story, but like my middle daughter is she's changing a whole entire industry at 19. She's the first woman that's ever been hired to do her particular job in the
wow.
history of that
Wow.
particular country
Wow.
company.
Okay.
And so, and she's doing a job that is very masculine. She's working on a
Mm,
tugboat in the middle
okay.
of the
Oh,
ocean.
wow.
So
That's fun.
very masculine,
Yeah.
very male dominated industry.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
and the other one, she is very much the flower child, very empathic, very connected to nature,
Mm,
so it's interesting to me to see how the dynamics of my spiritual connection and my DNA shows up in them.
right. And to maybe learn, like I really believe that our children are here to teach us, right? There's so
Oh
much
yeah,
that we learn from them by seeing ourselves reflected back at us in different ways.
right,
So that
exactly.
does that give you the opportunity to further explore their inheritance from you, or the different elements that they've inherited from you, and reflect on how you've either used it or channeled it in your
Yeah,
life? Yeah.
completely. Like with my first daughter, she's like she has the duality like I do, where she's like the flower child and loves nature and all that, but she likes to get glamorous and get dressed up and wear the makeup and do the thing. And she was the cheerleader and the outgoing one and all of that. So she definitely gets that connection to nature and the ability to empathically connect with people from me. And me learning also to accept, okay, well, I like lipstick and high heels and but I'm also very zen and
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 they don't
connect
have
with
to
that way.
cancel each other out. It doesn't it
No,
yeah.
no, and but in that too, like with my middle daughter, she's very much not, I don't want to say she's ambiguous as far as like identity, but she
Mm,
just kind of floats in her own lane. She's not
mm,
connected to labeling herself as anything. And so with that, it's more about she's just owning her presence. whatever that is and wherever it
Right.
takes her. And she's very much the adventurer. So that I also see, whereas I don't like to have labels on myself, right? I
Mm-hmm.
can see that in her, and then my son being the wild child, I would say I'm definitely the don't follow the rules, don't know what
Oh
rules
yeah.
are.
Breaking all the boundaries and the
Yeah,
ceilings, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So each one of them having that, but like my son he started seeing, spirits and stuff really early in life. And my middle daughter would hear my name being called all the time.
Wow.
Um, and so, helping them understand that that's not something that you need to push away or be embarrassed about or ashamed of or try to control or, make it fit into a container, right, of
Yeah.
normalcy. And that they don't have to do what I do. That's the other thing. Because a lot of, you know, what I've experienced is a lot of parents that have children that are spiritually connected try to, kind of make a mold for them to go into that, like
Right.
doing readings and teaching spiritually, but that might not be their path.
Right. Just because they have those abilities and connections doesn't mean that they have to utilize it the way that the parents have or do or think that they should, right? That's up
Yeah,
to them to
yeah,
to give. It's because you're giving of yourself too, right? So you have to be prepared and ready to give of yourself when you step into that space.
yeah. And I think, it's the same thing like if you have a kid that's really good at football and you were good at football,
Hmm.
you want them to be good at football. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just a different title. But teaching them how to use that in everyday settings,
Right.
right? With their friends or with, I used to tell my daughters, if you feel something's off and you're with a group of people, do not hesitate
Hmm.
to listen to that you need to follow your intuition. And I don't care where you're at, call me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it doesn't have to be that there's anything wrong, you know,
Yeah.
you're feeling something that is off, then you have to trust that, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and using it in everyday life was where I needed to help them, right? Versus, my experience is totally different. They needed to have practical application of
For
how
sure.
do I use this in everyday situation.
Right. And not you've created this non-judgmental, very accepting space for them to acknowledge what they've got and to tap into it when they're ready to and when they at will, right? As
Yeah.
opposed, I think most kids, a lot of kids are very young when they're very young or have like the thinning of the veil, right? They just have
Mm-hmm.
more of a connection. Their youth and their newness to this world, I think still allows them that connection. And then it's kind of up to us whether we allow them to nurture it or we kind of shut it down with like, you're imagining things, don't be ridiculous. Right. So
Yeah.
you've really gifted them with something incredible because you haven't pushed them to shut it down. You've allowed it to flourish on its own for
Mm-hmm.
them to take it where they will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I didn't, the other thing too for my kids, I think that was really important. Also, I think as adults, the ability to play and use imagination,
Mm,
and I really believe that laughter is our highest form of expression, and that
absolutely.
with love, those are our two, biggest expressions that we get to have in this world.
Yeah.
And teaching them that, you can still be, 30, because my she's going to be 27,
Wow.
so I like, um, and you can still connect to that youthfulness of you and create and imagine and play and be, learning things and, all of that, and not let that go as you age, and that was always really important to believe in the magic of the world that we
Yeah.
live in because it truly is, magical in the sense of, yeah, if I'm watching my son create out of thin air, yeah,
It's magic. Yeah.
it's magic. Um,
Yeah.
but to have them have that experience weaved through their life is also I know a completely different way of parenting in that sense. But so they had this really dual experience from a
Mm.
very young age of I'm teaching them magic and the ability to create and manifest, but I'm also teaching them logical, practical application that you can do it. And it's not all fluff and rainbows. Sometimes it requires work, but the tenacity and the drive, that's one of the things that with my older daughter, she doesn't have that same drive, right?
Mm.
And so she would often say to me, well, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm not like you. And I said, well, you'll find your way. No, you're not meant to have my drive. My drive is
Right.
next level. It's not, no, and I say that laughing, but it's true. That is a fire, right? And I
Right.
know that that's not, I don't want to say normal because being abnormal would be the equivalent to that, but
Right.
it's just who I am, you know?
It's unique to you,
Yeah,
right? And she doesn't need to emulate you.
no,
You're there to guide her in her own gifts, right?
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
that's
Exactly.
that's common with like children and parents, right? The children grow up wanting to be like the parent, and the parent tends to want to mold the child, as we've said, into the same image as the parent, or vicariously live through things that they didn't accomplish for themselves, things like
Mhm.
that. Whereas what's missing from all of that is recognizing the child as the individual, right?
Yeah,
As the unique individual that they are. Yes, blessed with the genes that contributed to create them, but really they are their own soul that is completely different, and they have their own path, and our job is to teach, yes, but also just to be there and let them know that they are supported and loved.
yeah,
That's
completely. And I think, you know, with, us as parents, I think we definitely lose track of that, imagination and ability to connect with our kids as, individuals in a lot because, lives are crazy and responsibility is a lot. And, disconnecting from that responsibility is what I was talking about, like that shift that I made in 2018 of really wanting to understand more about letting go of responsibility, right?
mm,
But also taking ownership of the responsibility. It's a
mm,
unique perspective to take on. And when it comes to the money part of it and creating opportunities, if if you're not allowing yourself to accept responsibility for your role in life,
mm,
and you're just expecting life to just deliver to you because you've meditated and you're waiting for a divine appointment, but you've actually got to take some action. That's where
mm,
the responsibility comes in. You've got to be proactive, but not in the sense of what I see is a lot of people do busy work, but they don't
mm.
actually do the internal work to
Sure.
align with that. And money is an interesting component because it it defines a lot of things about us and it will reflect back to you
Mm.
where you're not embodied
Yep.
and
Oh,
where
yeah.
you're not fully embracing who you are.
Absolutely. You've brought it right, like circle back to what we said in the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That your relationship with money is the reflection of you and how you feel about yourself in this world. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved is there really is a very deep, I love words, right? Like for me,
Yeah.
words are important, but the difference between responsibility and ownership is
Mm-hmm.
really, it's this very delicate balance, because responsibility can imply also obligation, right? Or that you have to do something, and things that you do out of having to don't necessarily bring you where you want to be or generate the energy of what you want to manifest and accomplish. But
Mm-hmm.
taking ownership of something, that brings it more into your, like the visual that I get is it brings it into your energetic sphere. I am taking ownership of my business or the things I want to do with it, but not out of obligation or what I think I'm supposed to do. It's because this is a part of who I am, and it's an extension. It's just another extension of me, this ownership of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for because in words are huge and of huge
Hmm.
importance, just so you know.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, so they carry their own energy. It's
yeah.
really so powerful. Yeah.
Over the last uh what was it? It was really September of this year. I had a new spiritual gift come in. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So apparently we've shifted into a new, a place where we can allow other spiritual gifts to come in.
Mm.
First, so for me, having already been connected for as long as I have, to have a new spiritual gift come in is, I'm
That's
like,
incredible.
okay, yeah, that's interesting. All
Yeah.
right. And it was around releasing poverty, that beliefs that we've made in past lifetimes
Mm.
that affect our current money
Mm.
reality and standard that we allow ourselves to have. And I
Right.
was like, because I already created all the wealth, right? So I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
why is
Poverty.
this coming in for me?
Yeah.
Like, we're good.
Yeah.
But because I'm always, and this is one of the things, I do my own work on myself
Mm.
first. I am my own first and best client,
Which I think
hands
we
down.
all have to be, right?
Yeah.
Especially in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't do your work on yourself, how do you know what your client is receiving?
No, and how can you have any experience in moving yourself through it or like
Yeah.
to be able to guide someone else?
Yeah. And for me
Yeah.
being a channel, right? So I channel and then I see, right? Think about that. So I have to
Mm.
remove myself from the physical role
Right.
as the channel, the spiritual guide, and then move into the space of neutrality while
Right.
giving the session to myself. And
Mm.
so when the poverty vow came in, it's literally 11 steps that I had to work on myself around in many different versions of my own soul's history,
Mm.
and how those affect your, literally those memories are in your cells of your body
Yeah.
and the DNA of your structure. That to me blew me away. That was like, whoa.
It's very powerful. It's very powerful to realize that we're living not just our own story today in this lifetime, but we're getting the ripple waves of the things that we've lived or our ancestors have lived
Yeah.
before us. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, I had that same realization for myself in relationship today, in around relationship where I realized like, wow, this I've been in this loop around something and I just had a momentary flash of like, this isn't just you. This is my grandmother. I see it, I feel it, right? So now it's trying to work backwards to how we're
Yeah.
going to heal that so that we can
Yeah.
step out of this recurring loop, which is like
Yeah.
blew me away. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. Like, we have accelerated our progress to the point where, now we can access different parts of our subconscious patterning on a
Mm.
soul level. That hasn't happened before. And I can tell you, like, I remember my past lifetimes.
Do you?
I just have.
Oh,
I have. I've been
incredible.
there. That happened for me when I was really young. And I cannot find a moment in our soul's experience that we have ever been able to do that.
Mm. Well, I
No.
mean, the general awakening that's going on and the energies just continue to build and evolve and expand, I think is the word.
Yeah.
Expansion has been the word that's been not triggering me, but I've locked onto that recently. It really is. And it's spreading from person to person and people who you didn't think before, who really were so close to it before are starting to get these inklings and say things that are like, oh, you're starting to understand things differently, and this growth, it's beautiful to watch. And we really are going through quite an evolution as a species, on
Yeah.
this planet, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. And the funniest part I think for me is, I touched on that where I was in a narcissistic relationship, it was
Mm.
abusive. And I created that wealth with him, right? So if
Wow.
you're highly in tune and you're highly empathic and you create wealth with a full-blown bipolar narcissist, you learn a lot,
Powerful. Yeah.
yeah, about how empaths do money and how
Mhm.
narcissists do money. And there are
Mhm.
things that I took away from that experience that I'm like, we need to be doing that as empaths, as
Yeah.
spiritual intuitives. We need to take those assets from that. Well, I needed to take those assets
Mm.
to be able to explain that to intuitives where, we go into over responsibility.
Mhm.
you know,
Ooh,
whereas they're just like, I want it, I'm gonna get it. Like I don't
right,
care how I have to get it. I want the money, I'm gonna get the money.
right.
Versus we're like, oh my God, I gotta do all the things and I gotta make sure that it's right.
Mm,
And they're just like, nope, 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 nope.
yeah. Mhm.
And doing that, I unlocked a whole entire empathic process around creating wealth.
Right.
And
Mm,
so that is huge to me because if you can learn your your strengths in the face of that kind of adversity and see them as a teacher
mhm. Yep. Oh
for
yeah.
the world, that is huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your awareness is just incredible because that is, I mean, to survive a narcissistic relationship in itself. I mean, I went through that too. It takes you down to the lowest level of yourself, and then you have to realize where you are and awaken to like, oh my God, I'm over here. And now how do I climb out of it is its own journey. And to be able to have the awareness to do that, to get yourself out of it and to survive it, but and also understand the relationship to business or wealth creation and what works for you and what you need to do and how you need to channel it, instead of some of
Yep.
us do take on those same qualities as a narcissist. Like too long with the narcissist makes you the narcissist, makes you not a narcissist. I take that back. It has you take on certain behaviors or qualities of that narcissist, and only once you get away from that person
Oh yeah, yeah.
you can weed them out and retrain yourself. But it's like a tsunami tidal wave.
Oh, it
It's
is
hard to live through. Yeah.
completely. But the benefit in me because I was running everything, and
Mm,
so in that I was able to understand, okay, well, this is the hang up. This is what
mm,
intuitive people are doing with money. It
mhm,
means too much to them.
mhm, mm,
It takes too much weight, and then you're trying to own it.
mhm.
And
Right.
it doesn't work
You
like that
can't. Yeah.
at all. At all.
Yeah.
And so, watching him and having that experience, and really I literally had like 35 different aha, like, oh, this is what you need, moments. And I have all this. It's funny because I wrote them on blue and pink post-it notes as I was having these aha moments, right? And I was like, oh, there's the dichotomy in itself, right? So I'm gonna have
Mhm.
blue and pink.
Right. The feminine and the
Um,
masculine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so being I'm a creator, and I
Mm,
had to really accept that responsibility, right?
right.
And own that. That's who I am. I'm a creator. That's what I do. I create fast and quick, and it's great. But that also is a catch-22 because if it's a relationship and it's
Uh,
not aligned,
yeah.
you know, I got to be careful. That fire is a magnet. Yeah.
Right. And so your evaluation skills and your understanding of others and self really has to be on target to balance out the quickness of the
Yeah.
way you operate. Yeah.
Yeah. And to not, like you were speaking about relationship, like I have to put the context of what that is. If it's, just a date and we're just going to have fun,
Mm,
to not make that mean, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Not put that kind of energy of this is an end all be all
Mm,
relationship because I
right.
can manifest it and then I'll be like, what am I doing here? Like you said,
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
be like, what are you doing? I don't even really like you.
I just called you into my space and I got excited.
It
Yeah.
sounded like fun at the time.
And so in your work with clients, it just sounds, between life transformation and business mastery, there's a lot of similar qualities or similar touch points
Mm-hmm.
to work on for yourself, right? Or for,
Yeah.
every person needs to work on its own, it all is intertwined as part
Yeah.
of our evolution.
Yeah, completely. So when I work with, it doesn't matter because I actually have two roles, right? When I work with clients, I either, you know, I find myself working on the fundamentals of wealth, right?
Mhm.
And money. And I do work on the poverty vows with them to initially get that, leveling up to happen. And then we can start talking about soul legacy,
Mm,
which is, you know, the what do you want to leave here?
mm,
What is your soul is calling you to leave a mark here. What do you
yeah.
want to be known for? And people don't want to talk about what do you want to be known for when you're not here.
But
They,
that's a very hard topic in itself when you're not
yeah,
here, or that concept in itself is just very hard for anyone to approach.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so my whole life has been built around what do I want to stand for? What do I want to be known for?
Mm,
And in that includes like me in business when I was really young would give back. We have to do the
mm,
give back. We have to think about what do you want to change? What are you being called to change in this world? Not just
mhm,
spirituality, but like, are you meant to give to the homeless? Are you meant to, you know, set up a foundation for veterans? Or it
mm,
has to be the balance of the two.
yeah.
And that's that piece about, you know, when I talk about, you know, soul legacy, the full embodiment is can you receive at the level at which you're called to receive in wealth and opportunities so that you can give back in the way that you're called to and step into that.
That's huge. That's huge because receiving in itself is like its own workspace for people, right? To learn
Yeah.
how to receive, and
Mm-hmm.
then understanding that it's not just receiving and you've received and it stops with you, but
Mm-hmm.
to recognize the exchange of I've given so I can receive so I can give again.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. That takes it one step beyond, I think, what I've heard from most, or the different business spaces that I've been in. That really takes it to another a really beautiful level. And it's so important because that touches on um, the fulfillment aspect of things,
It
right?
does, yeah, because we are meant, that was the original creation of our soul is we give back and we change the world around us. That's why we chose to incarnate in this time and
Yeah.
have this experience. And I was talking, you know, I look back at some of my videos because I've done it for so long. I was talking about soul legacy in 2012, you
Wow.
know, when it was not even a thing to think about what do you want to be known for, what mark do you want to leave here. And I also work with, you know, I've worked with Grammy winners, I work
Wow.
with professional athletes, and when I bring them into this concept and they start to dismantle the
Mm,
identity that they have and
oh,
they step into this role of what do I actually want to be known for,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a huge shift.
Yeah. And is it in alignment with who I really am?
Yes,
Right.
yes, because
Yeah.
all those pieces have to be at play. And so
Yeah.
with business owners, it's the same thing. It's no different. If you have a company and you have one company, let's say you're a coach, and okay, so you're meant to have, maybe you're meant to start a restaurant, and that's
Mm,
how you diversify your income so that you can receive more, so that you can go, you know, like I said, maybe you open an equine therapy, you know, ranch
right.
to give back to horses. Who
Right.
knows? I don't know. It's in your soul.
Right. And that touches in on all the different elements that we are, and all the multiple directions that we can divide our passions and our interests.
Yeah.
I think this is a beautiful place to pause or to stop,
Mm-hmm.
just because we've been speaking for almost an hour,
I know,
and
right?
it's incredible. It's just so easy. I could spend the whole afternoon with you. I would love to have you on again. I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring us to closing because we've really touched so deeply on what you do and who you are, and I think you've expressed yourself so beautifully. And I hope that this resonates with, and I'm sure will resonate with so much of our audience. So as we come towards the end, I'm going to ask you to give me a recommendation for a book that has impacted you, for the Soul Speak guest recommendations book list that's available on bookshop.org. We've really started accumulating incredible titles that are very powerful. So please give us
Yeah.
your
So I
recommendation.
actually, yeah, I would say one of the first people that I ever connected with in spirituality would be Sonia Choquette.
Oh,
And she has a book and an audio series called Ask Your Guide. And it's
okay.
about bringing in your guides into your life and working with them
Okay.
and
Oh,
having the experience of a relationship with spirit.
Oh,
instead of it being
that's
a
beautiful.
talking at or accessing
Hmm.
information,
Right.
and that one, it's really a hands-on guide of accessing the different levels of that connection. So I would say that one. Um, she
Sounds
currently lives in
fantastic.
Paris. She was in Chicago for a long
Mm.
period of time. That's where I met her. And just a beautiful soul. She comes from a long line of very spiritually connected women, and
Okay.
is an amazing person herself. So
Well, that will be on our list. I usually put an order on for everything, every book that my guests recommend if I haven't already read it. So this will go on my list. And how amazing that you got to meet her. It's always wonderful to meet the author of a book that has impacted you. So
yeah, we had a
that's,
very special, close relationship, as I do with
mm,
most people. I really enjoy people, and I think you
it
honestly,
shows. Yeah.
you people are just amazing. I
Mm.
mean, we really are, and just the miracle of who we are and what we can do in this world is just it amazes me almost every day. It brings me to tears. So
Yeah. It's
it is
powerful.
that.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. So where can people reach you and find you to work with you? Share your links. They'll also be all in the show notes of how to
Yeah.
find you, but just give a quick
Yeah. So
overview.
my website is Janelle Hoyland, it's Hoyland. And then you can find me on Facebook, Janelle Hoyland Garza.
Right.
YouTube is Janelle Hoyland. I also have TikTok too, which is Reverend Janelle Hoyland. And I have all the things really.
Yeah. I have all the things, all the socials. Yeah, that's
All
the
the socials, all the things. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, all the places have video. I do live videos every day. So
Amazing. Oh, fantastic. Okay. So they can get a glimpse of more of your magic because it really
yes,
is just I feel it in this conversation. It's this fire that you talk about, but it's just beautiful to speak with you and really feel everything that you have to all your gifts and your insights to share. It's a blessing, and I'm very grateful and so appreciative that you've been my guest on this show today because it really has impacted me, our conversation. So I appreciate you giving your time and sharing who you are and what you do because you really
likewise.
have a beautiful legacy. I can see that definitely to leave.
Thank you. Likewise, and you have so much more that you need to do. So
You
yeah,
do. Oh,
I'm excited to be.
you gave me that truth shiver up the back of my neck. Thank you. Oh, all right. Well, we will speak again then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful day and we'll speak soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.